Thank you for joining us today. I'm your host, Tracy Bennett. In studio with me are certified financial planners Stephen Lucan and Tony Payne. Hey, guys. Good to see you, Stephen.
Nice
Great to see you.
Thank you. Nice to be here.
Good to have you in town and on deck.
Got
Always
some
nice
sunshine.
talking to you.
It was good. Yes, thank you.
I'm here too, Tracy.
Well, you know,
it's nice to be here too.
you're
Yeah, it's good to see you.
Yeah,
with
I
you,
know.
Stephen. It's nice to be with you as well.
You're my buddy, I know.
Thanks,
All right.
Tracy.
We have a lot to talk about today. I think this is a really fun topic for many people who have kids that are in college or actually getting ready to go to college. And it can be a daunting task to prepare your kid for college. It can be scary, especially if your finances are uncertain. So we want to kind of help you navigate that. The topic today is college funding strategy without sacrificing retirement. And I went through this personally. I have two kids, wanted to help them get through school without not saving for retirement. That's just something that was not an option. So I want to get into the weeds a little bit, how to navigate those tips and tricks.
Perfect. I think Tony's got some great answers for you.
Yeah. Well, I'll try, and then we'll pass it off to you for better ones.
So I have friends who actually kind of stopped contributing to their 401ks and their retirement funds to get their kids through college or to help them, even if it was just a little bit. I'll take a year off of contributing to be able to put that money towards college. So should retirement ever take a backseat to that is the first question.
Well, you're asking us, and I'll say for us, it's all about your goal. And we assume, and this is part of it, we assume your first goal is retirement for you or your spouse, if applicable. So if that's your first goal, yeah, definitely don't make that a backseat for education. Some parents will kind of hide behind that maybe and say, I want to retire. But truthfully, they're making the kids' education their goal and their primary goal. And Steve and I were even talking about that, just owning that and accepting that, knowing if you are going to override that, at least accept it and appreciate that's part of your strategy.
That's tough. There's a lot of peer pressure. I mean, I can remember conversations parent to parent. You feel like you're the only one that's doing it wrong, right? Mm-hmm. And it's a highly judged landscape when you're having the conversations with people in your network, in your circle. And I think it's very emotional, But for us, being able to do that for our kids was really important to us. But I had people say, well, why would you stop, contributing to your lifestyle? Your kids have a whole lifetime to pay for their student loans and to take care of their, to work to pay off those loans. And so having money set aside for them, and then on top of that, maybe having to have a supplement is certainly something that we had to deal with. And it was emotional. So that's the first thing I would suggest is drown out the noise.
Yeah, definitely don't follow.
Walk
follow
true to
the
your
neighbors.
convictions.
Yeah.
And to that point, and this is where if you're able to pay for it, which is one scenario, saying I'll skip a year's contribution and pay cash, that's one scenario. But then you also have people out there that would say, well, if I don't fund my retirement, maybe I'll get more aid. And there's a lot of consultants out there and a lot of FAFSA people and the new FAFSA, I'll say, but a lot of consultants and financial, I'll say consultants, not planners, but people in that world of college, almost a cottage industry, where it's a game of how do we get the most free money or aid? And they're not always specific on what does that mean. Mm-hmm. So sometimes people will go backwards, not save, not do the right thing, thinking that they're going to get aid. Mm-hmm. So it's also that may be at play too, not just that you have the cash and are diverting money, but you may not even have the cash. So you're thinking, well, maybe I'll get more for the kid or maybe they'll get more. So I know that plays into some people. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And we'll elaborate later why that may not be the best idea.
Yeah, always nice to have that. Kind of want to get into the alphabet soup of options for people. If you did want to start early.
Well, can I just back up to the retirement? Mm-hmm. When you're building a financial plan, everything, there's I use the word consequences, but that's sort of negative. But if you're going to focus more on the education aspect, it may delay your retirement by a couple of years. And if you have working with a financial planner, they should be able to show you, okay, if you do this, you may have to work 2 or 3 years more. Are you okay with that? Parents can decide, yes, that's fine. But you got to be careful because for somebody who may have a newborn or a younger child, they start early. The goal would be to maintain a saving strategy for that student when they're ready for college, it's fully funded. And you're talking about if it's not fully funded, do you cheat on the retirement side? So it is possible, but you just know what you're getting into and seeing how it impacts your retirement.
So it's a sacrifice, in
Yeah.
any way you look at it.
Yes.
It has to be.
Yeah.
And that's where the noise, you have to drown out the noise. You have to recognize this is what we intend to do. This
Plan it out.
We're going to plan it this way and,
Yeah.
and they can worry about themselves.
Right, which I'm going to keep saying that. They can worry about themselves, but when you are a retiree or your health changes or the economy changes, your job changes, AI replaced what you did, and you were a doctor. I mean, you had this great profession making decent money, and then the world is rocked, let alone everybody else out there. Well, what you did for one child and paying cash flow and all that, and then I'll catch up later, may not be the case. So the idea of you've got to put yourself first, I think, in my opinion, because you don't know what your future holds. And if you really are going to want to help the kids later, they really need it, you're going to need to be in a good position yourself. You might be able to temporarily pass the college buck almost, but if you don't have enough for yourself, they're going to be the ones trying to take care of you.
Right.
Or hopefully.
Yeah,
Otherwise,
yeah.
you paid for their college and they're off and living life and you're stuck with the results, which can happen.
Right.
Yeah.
So let's just kind of start early. Let's assume someone's with child or, getting ready to have a child in their life. Is that something that's right out of the gate? And there are lots of options for the retirement tools. So
Sure.
where would you go first? Where would
Well,
you start?
in 2026, it's the new Trump accounts for newborns. It's basically a free $1,000. All right, so take
Let's tell
that.
people what that is, because not everybody.
Well, it's a new tax code, tax law that it's called a Trump account for a newborn. And when's the new? Is it strictly for 2026 or does it backdate to 25?
There backdates depending upon the birth
Right,
date.
so-
And for the specifics, I would say Google it and go
Yes.
to the Trump accounts because there's a lot of ins and outs there on what you can invest in, what the money can be used for. I mean, you're right at the highest level, that free $1,000.
It's a free $1,000.
And then after that, whether you contribute more than that, that's where read the fine print, make sure you're comfortable with that. When do they get control? Do they get control? What can it be used for? How do the taxes work? And even then, how can it be invested?
Yeah. So that's the first thing I'd start with a newborn, right? Get that account, see how it's going to play out for you in your situation. And then the second one is you look at most people are familiar with it these days, is the 529 plan. Right, where basically you can contribute to a 529 plan for the benefit of the student, the child, and then have it invested for the next 18 years.
And there's a lot of soothsayers out there that'll say, don't do that, that'll be held against you. And that's what I was talking about a little bit earlier. But if you're somebody who's been earning income, you're growing in your career, you're on the upswing, dare I say, to penalize yourself or your children by not investing in the market or in a 529 and taking advantage of that time to grow. I mean, again, there's studies, you can do the math, look it up on your own, but what does the child actually get if I don't fully fund this 529 or if I don't partially fund it? And that's a real question. I mean, there can be different answers, but you might just be entitled to subsidized loans. They might get some grants, partial grants, but the majority of aid, when you look at where you might be at in your world and what you're earning, it's not what you think or not what's usually presented as free money. So that's where if you penalize yourself, don't put money in the 529, well, then you're not getting all those returns for all those years, hopefully, of, if I'm diversified, if I'm in the market, that money should earn a little bit. And that hopefully, if you're somebody that makes too much to qualify for aid, you can almost think like your 529 earnings are your aid because there's no taxes on that if you're using it for qualified expenses. And again, let's say your child doesn't go to the liberal arts 4-year school down the street. There's plenty of other uses for that. I know, Stephen, you and I have talked a little bit about creative ways to use that.
Yeah.
We have another podcast. If you're interested in checking that out, Managing to Be Wealthy podcast on YouTube. So what else? I mean, I've heard people take cash out of their 401ks for their college.
That can be dicey.
kids.
What the other topic that Tony and I like to talk about is crossing the finance side to the parenting side, right? If you have multiple children, right? How you went through it. You said, do you treat your children equally?
Yeah.
You're setting a standard for that the oldest child, and the younger ones pay attention. They
Yes,
watch
they
that.
do.
So as a financial planner, you have to be careful because we're not parents, right? But we're here to get your goals accomplished. But that's one of the traps. Is the first one says, "Oh, I want to go to college across the country." And then Tony and I would say, okay, you have to factor in travel costs, holidays, who's paying for the airfare, is there a car on campus? There's so many questions to be asked. So from a family perspective, you have to have that conversation at the dinner table. And remember, you're setting a standard. If you're treating all your children equally, that first one is going to set a standard for the remainder of them.
Right. And discuss, what does equal mean? I mean, first with your partner and then with your children too. But the idea of someone joins the military, they get the GI Bill, maybe they don't need that, we'll say formal education, they get their life experience and maybe a pension or something too, which is awesome, but their siblings have been struggling. You know, what does equal mean? And that can even go down the road to the estate. I know we'll talk about that in another show too, but the idea of what equal means, talk about that, make sure you guys agree on that. And if you don't, well, there's a little compromise.
Yeah.
That's tough for some people.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm kind of looking back. We've always been pretty communicative as a family. We really kind of entered into the experience together based on my experience. It was still fairly limited. I mean, what I know today, I would have still done it a little differently. I still would have really formalized the conversations a little bit more than I did. Picking your kid's brain is not enough. You know,
right.
And I think that's what we did. You know, we kind of wanted to make sure that they were, happy where they chose to go. That was really important to us. And
but at what cost?
But
right?
at what cost? Right.
That's the $1 million question.
Exactly.
And you hear the good and the bad stories behind it, right? Of paying too much for tuition, and then the student really never gets a career that pay
with
off
a degree
that
in pencil pushing or
right,
something.
Yeah. Right.
So I think that's, if I can just interject and offer up as a parent at LA, those conversations, formalize those conversations, sit down and really hash it out. What do you want to do? You know, what is your goal after college? Really comb through those things. But I mean, if you have an infant, you obviously can't do that.
And to help on that or add on that, it starts like we led with the parents and their goals. You know, is our goal to fully fund this education? Is our goal to have someone who's capable in the world? I mean, when you've really focused on that, and I've seen some families that have, they've targeted their plan. They know where they're going or where their children's education may be. So then the idea of we're making this investment in your education, well, there's a different track sometimes in happiness and fulfillment and that college experience. And sometimes I've heard that from parents, give them the college experience, let them live on campus, have friends. Well, is that really why you're paying this $80,000 a year maybe? And if it is that worth it? And if not, okay, are there other ways you might do this? And for those who could write the check and not worry about it, great. Maybe that's not a consideration, but we hear so much about how people are struggling with debt, the cost of college, to think as parents from the beginning, what's the goal here? Is it to have, sorry, Steve?
Yeah, I'm saying, but college has changed so much over the last 20, 30 years, right? It used to be affordable pretty much across the table, and now it's not very affordable. So people, you need to understand that the parents have to understand that experience has changed dramatically, just the cost structure. It's not the same as when we went to college than it is today from a finance perspective.
Well, and my soapbox, but it is not the milk crates and cardboard and the bomb shelter apartment. You live on campus, and most of them, it's a luxury apartment. You're paying for that, and that child's getting that standard of living right away. So the idea of, do they revisit, like you said, is the college experience what it used to be, or is maybe living in mom and dad's basement, getting by, having to save? Is that the real college experience of what they might experience getting out, getting their first job, trying to pay rent in the high cost of living area? You might actually be setting them up for success with a different college experience. You just have to think about it.
Yeah.
So back to some of the tools. And I really want to talk about cashing in your retirement to pay for education. That makes my skin crawl, the idea of that. But I guess if you have to do that,
Goes back to my word consequences.
Right.
If you do it,
so it really is an absolute. It's a black or white.
Well, you're saying consequence. I'm going to go there now.
Okay.
Yeah.
You remember this from a Monday
Yeah,
meeting of ours.
Yeah.
So let's say you did that. You know what? They've been accepted this wonderful university. Tuition payments come and due. what do? I don't even want to tell the kid I can't make the bill payment. I'm embarrassed as a parent. I've got this 401k. That's what you wanted to talk about, that you've been saving in. Most employers will limit that and just the rules, what you can take out as a loan from that. So let's say you took out your $50,000 as a loan. You made your first tuition payment. Life is good. You're feeling better. Then you get the news that work isn't going so good, or your profession isn't going so good. You're done. You're terminated. You're separated from work. Immediately, that loan becomes like a distribution. You either need to pay it back or you need to accept it and say, I owe taxes on this. So at that point, not only was the money out and already spent on something else, but now you may have a tax bill due with that, or you got to basically pay it back right away. And then again, child's still in college. You may still have the next tuition payments. So the idea of would that loan be the end-all be-all? In most scenarios, it's not. Even if you did that, you're thinking maybe it's 1 year of college,
Right.
maybe one semester. So that's where, just to say it out loud, is it a stopgap? Maybe. But again, if something goes bad, you're really paying for it.
Yeah. And that's part of it too, is have the child, the student, a part of the financial decision. It's about going to the right college, not a college. And maybe that's part of the conversation is, okay, here's college A costs this much, college B costs that much. Let's start weighing the pros and the cons, and what is your major? How are you going to pay this off? What's the average salary for the major you're going to be studying? And there's a lot of work that can be involved, but include the student, right? And that's where I think the parents may be hiding that. Just go where you want to go versus let's make a
or I want
decision.
you to go where I went.
There you go.
I know
Yeah.
of families where they dictated where the child went, and then the child epically failed and had to redirect and added time on and changed majors twice. And boy, that can be a nightmare.
The good news, and I've seen this, again, this is only my experience, but it used to be, or I felt like it used to be, that a guidance counselor in high school was almost helping jump through all the hoops to get you the most aid or get you to that ideal school you wanted to go to, whereas perhaps back in the day it was more of a where's the fit, where can you go,
Right.
what's the right career path for you. And I think we're going back to more of that of, there's an alternate to just a 4-year school or something like that, but where's your fit going to be? Where might you succeed the best? And I think it's that coaching, counseling early that, like you said, there's no worse mistake maybe than 2 years of something that I got to start over on. If I would have known or learned earlier, maybe working outside is more of my path than being in this classroom. And you know what, if you started that apprenticeship early, and you could use 529 plans to help with that, by the way, well, then you may be off on a much better investment. And I'm going to keep calling it an investment.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely is subjective. And my next question originally was how much should parents realistically contribute without breaking the bank? But obviously, that's very
It's dependent.
That's very
Yeah,
personal,
case by case. Yes.
very
Yeah,
subjective.
yeah.
Is it? It's. I guess it's really 100% based on how much you have saved for your retirement.
It could be. I'm going to go broad here, broad statement.
I mean,
but
if I can interrupt, do you when you have someone sitting in front of you who has the pure raw emotion that they want their kid to go to maybe their alma mater, and it's maybe it's out of state, and they're just starting to gain some momentum with their plan.
Right.
How do you handle that? How do you kind of break that conversation down?
And that's a different scenario than I was going to answer. So if someone has those funds, no matter what, unlimited, let's say, they can pay for whatever school for 4 years for 8 kids. It doesn't matter. I would still say have that discussion with the child of what are you going to contribute to this? What are you on the hook for? Back to the scenario where mom or dad don't have enough for it, back to what we've been repeating, it's consequences. If you're going to borrow money or let the child borrow money, which is on them, that's not mom and dad. There are parent loans that can be tied to you, and those, if it's your choice and you want to be on the hook, those work for you. But if the child were to say, it didn't work for me or that career, you're still stuck with those loans. So back to that scenario where you don't have enough and you want them to go somewhere, well, if you want them to go there, deal with the consequence.
Right. What other options, what other tools, as far as loans are concerned, can people take advantage of if they don't have enough saved and they want to help their kids?
Well, there's obviously the federal loans, right? You can apply for the federal loans. Tony mentioned a loan from the 401k. Dare I say even a home equity line of credit. there's a lot of options out there. Access to money, right? A home equity loan, home equity line of credit. There's a lot of things out there that you can look for, but you got to be careful. You got to understand what you're getting into, and that's why, again, a financial planner will help you talk you through all these considerations.
And there's a reason why we're not talking about EFC, the expected family contribution. When you live in that cottage industry world of how do I get the most aid or how do I get the bill the smallest, that becomes your only measure. Well, if I get this thing lower, the family pays less, I get more aid or they qualify for more. They're not talking about your chance of success for retirement, what happens if I'm disabled, what happens if the housing market goes down. So all those other options of take a loan from retirement plan, maybe cash one in early with a penalty, be able to borrow money from the house. Each of those comes with that consequence. We keep saying that.
Yeah.
But the idea of if something goes bad, you are really paying for it versus, well, the kid has a finite interest rate for the next 20, 30 years. Hopefully it's an investment that they've earned the income to support that loan. And if we're not thinking of it as an investment, again, back to that idea, you probably can't afford it. If it's a vacation, and I'm being an extreme example here, but if it's an optional item like a vacation, well, scale it to what you can afford.
Yeah. And that's why I say include the student in the discussion, in the conversation, whether it's have them sign for the partially sign for the loan so they understand what they're getting into. And again, I just go back to my college days, friends of mine who went to medical school. They said it was eye-opening when they had to sign, here's the loan for that medical degree. And it's scary, but then you know what you're getting into. You're part of that decision process.
Right.
And
it changes your perspective. So go ahead.
Yeah, and there can be formal work study programs through university that, hey, you needed to do that to get part of the aid, so they're helping by working on campus. But then there's also that old-fashioned financial aid, working. Just getting a job and working, and there are employers. And this is also part of that hunt and thinking creatively. Well, if I work for an employer for 2 years while I'm in high school, have I earned or qualified for tuition aid or benefit? That's a real thing. You can do that homework and see that. And the same idea of if I start working earlier on in a career path that I think I want to advance in, well, there's no better way or person to pay for your education than your future employer. So the idea of being able to think creatively, tie that stuff in as mom and dad being able to guide and no, we don't have this checkbook to write all these checks, but we want to help you and you want to be that vet and you want to go out there and do that. Maybe there's some path with the zoo or some local animal hospital or vet service. So I'm just picking that one, but I know that one's relevant.
Right. Getting a job really helps a lot too.
Old-fashioned financial aid.
It does.
Right. Yeah.
So, sort of side question: are any of these better or worse as far as taxation is concerned, or does it really matter? I mean, is it really subjective?
Everything we've talked about?
Yeah. I mean,
the 529 plan, that's why the 529 plan is so fantastic. It's tax-free.
So that's the best.
So you
choice.
deposit $1,000, it's worth $30,000 at graduation, high school graduation. That $30,000 is tax-free if you choose for college use, tuition, room and board and so forth. So that's a home run.
If you were in the position that you've got generous other people in the family, they're worried about gift taxes or estate taxes someday, what a good position to be in, but they could also pay the institution directly, and it does not count as a gift. So if they're getting the tuition bills or a family member gets that and pays that, well, then that's another way to circumvent the gift tax or something like that.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, fantastic. We're talking about kids getting involved in the money conversations. I mean, a lot of people think it's too much too soon. And, the one thing that we encountered is my older son, the colleges, of course, don't want to talk to you. They want to talk to the student. And his student advisor had him signed up for 20 class hours his freshman year of college.
Yeah.
And he almost failed. And he was an honor student and was invited into the business college and was doing all the right things. And because of the demand of that schedule, really struggled. So we had had him take his credit hours considerably down and then get a part-time job just because it was sort of not all studying. It gave him some time to decompress, some time to earn some money. So looking at those options really helped us.
It doesn't have to be a straight line. So
Right.
the idea of you've graduated high school, maybe there is that first job, career entry level position. You learn a little bit, see what you like, and then may decide to invest in school. But I know we're all kind of programmed. Oh, you graduate, where you're going to school. Don't even take the next year off. But sometimes that year could be important. Or like you've shared, I mean, that modified, let's do a lighter schedule. And sometimes that might incorporate community college or other educational paths that give a lot of freedom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, the high schools really track you and they really vein you to take the college prep courses and pay for all of those. And then, they track the boys in a certain direction and they track the girls in a different direction in very limited degrees, at least in our experience. And so you don't know what you don't know if it's your first kid. So you're doing your level best to, in good faith, trust what they're telling you. But boy, hindsight is 2020. So really having those conversations, I thought I had researched it, sufficiently, but I would have done a lot differently. And all of that leans on how to fund it. It really does. So having those conversations really is at the crux of it. Next question is what if a parent's income suddenly changes? People's plans fall apart. You get sick, you lose your job, and let's say you're funding a Parent Plus loan for your kid.
This may be a good note to end on because life happens, things change. You and I went through it. I mean, early in our career, or earlier, 2006, 7, 8. If you were running a mortgage company or you had a great business and you were in we'll say the building field even, life was good. You were opening new builds all the time. Maybe you could pay for that wonderful Ivy League education for your firstborn. And then 2008 and 9 happened, and then you're setting up shop. You're maybe underwater on things, but then child two's, hey, I'm ready to go. I got accepted. Here we go. Yeah. I'm ready to join my brother or sister there, and you're rocked. What do we do? And like you led with, Stephen, set expectations, have that discussion. Plan on that. If my world were rocked now and I have multiple children, or even the one child, and I'm year 2 into this plan, but I don't get the bonus at work or my stock doesn't come through, then what? So I would say the best thing is think about that ahead of it happening. And then if it were to happen, that's back to the family. What are our goals? If our goals have changed, we still need to retire, take care of ourselves. Well, then maybe the child takes on some loans.
So communication and planning seem to be the common themes here.
Yeah.
And that's what you do every day.
Yeah. And all categories, whether it's retirement, insurance, estate planning.
It's funny.
All planning for a reason.
I've been with the company 13 years, and I did all this before. It's amazing what you learn. It is such a behemoth of an industry. So get some help if you need it. It's definitely worth it. Thanks for joining us. If you'd like more content like this, we hope that you'll like, subscribe, and share with your friends.
Boxland Media. Think big.